Dutradis and Davies enter tonight on a tie, and the points they score will determine who has the upper hand heading into the finale. On top of that, they're both being hunted by Goodway, who is absolutely able to overtake the both of them. With all this, that means the pressure is on here at Sebring. Who will perform and who will buckle? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 9 of the PRL GT3 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie. Sebring International Raceway is known for its history with sports car racing, so today's GT3 event will feel right at home. Let's head to our track guide to learn more.
Welcome to Sebring International Raceway. Home to the 12 Hours of Sebring, one of the most grueling tests in endurance racing, this is a track which has earned a fearsome reputation among drivers. The circuit itself is located on the southeastern edge of the city of Sebring, Florida, and was built out of Hendricks Army Airfield shortly after World War II. 3 layouts are currently in use, ranging from 1.7 to 3.7 miles in length. The longest course, which is perhaps the most well-known with it being the one used for the famed endurance race, shockingly still contains portions of the original airfield surface. It's this aspect which has become a signature feature of the track, making it extremely bumpy for racing. Sunset Bend in particular nearly shakes cars apart while they attempt to navigate the high-speed 180-degree corner. As you'd expect for the side of an airfield, there's nearly no elevation change over the course of a lap, but many of the curves are dramatically tall and unforgiving, daring drivers to glance them yet not hit them directly. Thankfully, places to pass are plentiful, including spots like the Hairpin and Cunningham. However, the many fast, sweeping turns creates a dilemma for car setup, since a vehicle that's made too stiff could wind up bottoming out on the onerous bumps. In the end, if you have the wherewithal to withstand the track's rough nature, you're likely to fare well. And since Florida fans almost always show up in huge numbers to witness this test of car and driver, you'll have plenty to impress at this legendary North American road course.
Well, DJ, I'm looking forward to this one, especially with everything that's on the line tonight. But how do you think these GT3 cars will handle this notoriously bumpy track?
Well, Joe, they've got to hope that their suspension is tuned just right to handle these bumps, because that is one of the toughest and most characteristic things about Sebring is just how bumpy this track is. You've got to have a lot of compression built into the springs to be able to take it. As a result, what that does mean is that you're able to do a lot of riding over the curbs in these cars, and that's going to be very, very important when you get into the second twisty sector of this track. That's from about the hairpin of turn 7 all the way up to tower in 13. So that's going to be an area where it's all about car control and just trying to maximize through the corners, but you're not going to see a whole lot of overtaking there in these GTs. It is going to make it a little bit difficult because these are GT3s that we are dealing with, so they're a little bit heavier of machines, a little bit harder to get slowed down. You got to put a little bit more brake pressure on it. Now, as always at Sebring, in these GT3s, the passing is going to mainly take place on the 3rd and 1st sector of the lap. Look for that good draft coming down the Almond Straight. Multiple lines you can take through Sunset Bend and then back up the pit straightaway. You may see some good dives into that wide, narrowing turn 1, and we may even see some good moves down into the hairpin at turn 7. But one way or the other, this is a track that no matter what you're driving, it demands total attention from the driver.
I'm sure there'll be plenty focused, especially up at the sharp end of the field. But today's race, we want to focus you, is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SimMSA.net.
The PRL GT3 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulations. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. We talked briefly about the championship and how it looks. If we take a glance at the driver's standings, you can see a tie between Utredes and Davies with only 6 points back to Goodway. Now, he does have to hope for a poor result from both of those drivers, but when I say a poor result, I mean essentially maybe just outside the top 10, maybe even within the top 10, and he could still overtake both of them. David Menino is a ways back at this point, not mathematically eliminated, but he really needs to score a lot better than all 3 of the drivers in front of him. Genet, same deal, along with James David. Essentially, 3rd, 4th, and 5th are probably more concerned with one another than the other 3 up in the top 2 spots. What about the team's championship, DJ?
Well, it's a little bit more of a runaway there. You can see SimMSA Esports is 114 points in the lead. That is pretty much an unassailable lead at this point, that team being headed up by Davies, Goodway, and Morales. But the real battle here, Joe, is for P2. There are only 3 points separating SRT Esport Blue and Davidson Motorsport Orange. Now, SRT is made up of Palacio Flores and J.R. Williams. Davidson is made up of Janae and David. So this is going to be a very, very tight battle, something to keep an eye on throughout this and the next round. SRT Esport Orange, a fair way back from them in 4th, with SRT Esport Black rounding out your top 5.
Now for today's event in particular, here's our race details. We are in round 9 out of 10. They have 6 different makes of cars that they can choose from. A lot of GT3 cars on the service now. And the race distance is 40 minutes long, but they still have a scheduled pit stop because they've limited the fuels cells on these cars compared to what they have in the real world. So they will have to at least stop in for that. Don't expect tires to be changed. It is open setup, and you heard a little bit of talk from DJ about trying to get the springs and all the suspension exactly where the drivers want it. They got to behave on track or else they'll get a penalty, and then they have some bonus points, one of which they're qualifying, or they're working towards in the qualifying right now, which is a bonus for pole. Javi Utredes right now has that, which surprises me because Michael Davies looked like he had the measure of everybody in the warm-up.
Yeah, he certainly did, but Davies currently sitting back in 4th. Utredes and Diego Morales sitting up top in the Audis. And Joe, that's something I think we're going to be talking a little bit about here, is the individual characteristics of these cars. Sebring is really a tale of 2 tracks. Like I said, it's a lot of fast, wide open straightaways and flowing corners in the 1st and 3rd section. The 2nd sector, a lot of very twisty, tight, narrow corners. And I think you're going to see a little bit of ebb and flow throughout the race, depending on these drivers' setups and their car choices.
On board with Simkovic right now in the BMW. One of the more recent additions, replaced the old Z4, or I guess if you're somewhere across the pond, the Z4. But Spencer coming to try and improve on a 202.1. That one's not going to do it, unfortunately, about 0.2 off.
Yeah, he's going to hope to pick up some more time here. Here comes Flores. Now, this is one of the drivers that is definitely in the market, looking out for a few things here. Looks like he's slowing down, though. We're going to jump back to Goodway, one of our title contenders. Goodway not putting in a great time there.
Jordan Walker, in the meantime, looks like he had an off track, as that one did not count. And what about Matt Hilton, as he crosses another one where he seems to have had an issue? Instead, we look at Flanagan, 201.3, not going to be quicker than his best. And then James David now coming to try and cross the line. Multi-time winner here in this series, and he's going to go quicker up into 8th.
It's a good run for David driving that machine around. Here's Christopher Rhines. You see him in the pit lane right there. This is a very, very long pit lane, but compared to what we've seen in the past, it's a relatively easy exit and entry, so not a whole lot of problems there. But Arnaud Genet now coming across. Looks like he is on a warm-up lap, and this one's not going to count.
Deweese after him goes a little bit faster, and he gets a 2:02.7. That'll only get him one spot. But important drivers coming up behind. Morales, who's in second. Looks like he was on a warm-up lap, and so was Michael Davies. So those two apparently working together to try and find a little bit of time with the slipstream. J.R. Williams back and across once again. 2 flat 4, that's not going to do it.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of slower times at this point, but I also have to say we're seeing a lot of very consistent lap times from these drivers. So everybody very much in a good rhythm here. This is a track that really promotes that. If you could find the rhythm around here and sort of deal with the bumps as they come, it'll really help you. You can see Sensor Simkowicz's car there riding across those bumps coming through the Sunset Bend. He's going to come across the line trying to improve on a 2:02.1. He does not do so.
Nope, he'll stay in place. We look at Goodway, one of our 3 drivers vying for the championship. He sits in third and is in second in the championship currently. A 1:59.736, 2 100ths faster, so it won't get him a position, but he is finding more time. I agree that it is shocking how many drivers are staying within a couple tenths of their best time, considering this is actually a pretty long lap for these cars.
It is. We don't tend to think of Sebring as one of the longer tracks. There we see Sabalos coming across the line. Looks like he had an off somewhere. Palacio is going to improve a little bit as Utreras sets the fastest lap of the qualifying session with a 59.3. But yeah, Joe, this is a super, super long track. It takes a lot of time to get around here, and most people don't really tend to think of that. So the fact that these cars are so consistent, very, very impressive.
Yeah, it's just a little bit shy of 4 miles, and for reference, for those who know their tracks in the North America, that is not too much shorter than Road America, which is considered one of the longer ones all around this continent. Michael Davies stays in fourth as he does not go quicker that time by, despite pulling a toe behind Morales. This is Menino, and let's see what he's got. No, looks like only Hotham lately has been able to improve. Hotham went up to 13th briefly before he just got demoted down to 14th by somebody. Didn't quite see who.
Joe, I'm taking a look here at Javi Utreras' last lap as we ride on board with Simkovic again. I think that one of the reasons why that is so quick, I mean, that is a whopping 0.3 of a second faster than Diego Morales in second. I think he was picking up a bit of a toe. Right now, he's behind James David as of now. Julio Palacio a little way up the road to him, so I think he was being a little bit smart picking up a toe down these long straightaways, and that's what helped him get the top time.
Lewis Goodway is next, and he goes quicker. This one is much better at 59.6, and he's still 4 100ths off of Diego Morales, who is actually pitted recently, and I think Diego does not have time to get another lap in from here, unfortunately. Jordan Walker, who is in 21st, he's also going to abandon his qualifying. He's done for the day.
You see Jean-Marc Tremblay barely not able to improve his time just by a couple of tenths. Here comes James David and the towing. Utreras behind him. Let's keep an eye on Utreras' time. Yep, that's what it was, Joe. He is on a 59 flat thanks to the tow.
Half second quicker than Morales, who is not able to respond. Barczewski is finally able to put one on the board. That'll put him in a 20th. Genet next across the line out of Sunset Bend. Takes it across, and yeah, it looks like that was a warm-up lap for him. So he gets one final flyer. Hotham giving a tow to, looks like his teammate. That is Cochran, who is currently down in 18th. So let's see if that helps the Ferrari.
What'll be also interesting to see as we watch Cochran coming to the line. He is able to improve by about 2 tenths there. Now, I would not be surprised if Cochran backs off here and then lets his teammate Hotham get a draft from him, kind of play that back and forth game a little bit to see who can help who.
Watching from J.R. Williams' perspective, he wasn't doing too shabby in the warm-up. I believe he was 4th on the timing sheets, but currently he's sitting in 7th. His first lap was his best one, so he's not been able to do much since he first exited the pits. Let's see. Yeah, that was a warm-up lap, so he's taking off on flyer. Michael Davies also doing the same, just getting one last run as we switch to Lewis Goodway. Best position to overtake Utretis, who's off the circuit right now. Goodway, is he going to be able to start another one? It's going to be very, very tight. As he comes to the line, I think he's, got across in time. And it's a good thing because that was a warm-up lap.
Wow, talk about cutting it close there for Michael Davies. You see Chambray coming in. Here comes Jordan Walker. Looks like he's diving down to the inside. Yeah, he is going to take that off. Same with Marcheschi there. So now we're going to follow David Menino, currently 5th place, as he works his way out of the back portion of this track, getting onto the Ullman Straight.
Jean Devienne and up to Le Mans, one of the most critical corner exits on the entire course. He was way to the inside and had a big bobble coming off the exit there. Looks like he didn't have it discounted though, because he's still going and not giving up on it. So the number 3 stays out, blinks a little bit with some connection problems, and now swings it around Sunset Bend. He has a full second to make up to get up to the pole. Let's see if he can get to the next car, though, which is Michael Davies. No, he will abandon it. Not happy with it. That's it for Menino. J.R. Williams will be next, and he's quickly followed by Davies.
Yeah, and this is the one to watch. I think that's going to be just close enough to get a little bit of an effect of the draft for Davies. Williams, though, comes down to the line. He is currently sat in, as we right now on board with Michael Davies. Davies sat 4th. He's going to want to be a little bit faster. That seems like it's very far up the road to J.R. Williams. Williams going to be the first to cross the line. No, Williams is going to pit. Davies stays out to cross.
Can he manage to snatch this away from Utretis? No, it's a 59.956. That's not enough. Next up is going to be Lewis Goodway. He has even less to try and get up to Utretis, but he throws it away as he decides he's not happy with it. That is going to be it, as all of our drivers have now qualified. So Utretis gets a bonus point, and briefly before the end of the race, he is guaranteed to be ahead of his rivals. Diego Morales will be starting in 2nd, and Lewis Goodway starts in P3. Michael Davies will be on the outside of row 2, and David Menino in 5th. Hugo Gallo will be in P6, and it's J.R. Williams starting at 7th, and Jean-Marc Tremblay in 8th. James David starting P9 will be followed by Pipe Ceballos in 10th.
Julio Palacio will be starting off in 11th, followed by Jorge Flores, Arnaud Genet behind him in 13th, and Brian Hotham in 14th. David Flanagan's going to make up the inside of row 8, followed by Matt Hilton to his outside. Barry Cochran going to be in 17th, followed by Christopher Rhines in 18th. Spencer Semkowicz will be lining up 19th, and Keaton Marcheschi lining out in 20th.
All right, last few seconds tick down as we see the last few cars as well. DeWeese in 21st, Walker 22nd, and Schilling 23rd. Secklin didn't set a time. The 666 is not in the session right now, so I don't think we'll see him take part in the race. Only 23 should be expected to grid up here today at Sebring for round 9 of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. They're going to get a full pace lap to try and prep the cars here today, get the tires up to the desired temperature, and really think about this upcoming race. I mean, we hear a lot of athletes having to do certain things to try and get themselves into the right mindset, especially at the highest level, to be ready for these high-pressure situations. Have you ever had anything, DJ, that you've done to try and get yourself ready for these races that are that little bit more important to you?
Well, Joe, to sound like the utter Californian that I am, I have actually done that at a couple of points. I find Tai Chi before a race to be quite nice, is a good way to sort of get you in the zone, as people call it. And just a quick aside on that, there is actually physiological evidence of getting in that zone. If you are completely concentrated in on something, you are locked in. scientists have been able to read brain waves that when you get into that area, you will do better. They've noticed it particularly in rifle shooting competitions, that if you get in the zone, you are more likely to be more accurate. And so whatever these drivers can do, whether it's some sort of, yoga, tai chi, breathing exercise, anything like that to calm their mind, just focus on the road, that's what you have to do. Because when you get into the sim, the only thing you can think about is what's on the road in front of you.
Just a couple more cars lining up on the grid, and then we are good to go. There you can see Morales, and now we have Utredes. This will be an incredible result at the end of the season if Javi can manage to take this championship, because again, he was docked 20 points earlier on in the season due to some actions on track. That was by the race stewards after the races themselves. But he's not alone. I know we've been mentioning him. There have been other drivers that have fallen victim to that. Seklin has had some penalty points added. Spencer Simkovic, not Simkovic, Pipe Ceballos, rather, has actually lost just as many points as Utredes, 20 points docked for him. And then, of course, you've got people like Matt Hilton and Drew DeWeese. So he's not alone. Others have, unfortunately, drawn the ire of in this series, but it really goes to show the speed that Utredes in that number 10 has had this season.
It really and truly does. I think it's a really nice blend between car and driver. Javi is one of the few guys out here, only 3 right now, that are driving those old Audi R8s, one of the older GT3s on the service. Really likes the car, and he's just able to make it work wherever he goes. And so, yeah, Javi has just been absolutely incredible this season. Doesn't want to let it up here. He's starting in the lead. That's going to be good for him, but I have to play a little bit of devil's advocate to him, Joe. I think a lot of that speed we saw during qualifying can be attributed to him playing the draft game right, and I'm going to be watching Morales, Goodway, and Davies to try to take advantage of that draft and get themselves by Utredes when they get into the third sector of this lap.
Here's the question on that, though. It was 0.6 of a second. Do you think there's 0.6 worth around here in the draft?
Oh, no, rest assured, Javi's just fast. There is no question about that. I'm saying the draft helped. You don't get 6 seconds just with a draft.
Yeah, that was incredibly impressive. So it's a few of our drivers weaving back and forth to get those tires up to temperature here. It is a little bit early in the morning, currently just past 10:30 a.m. virtual standard time, and as such, it's not too hot on the track surface, 85 degrees Fahrenheit, so shouldn't be too much of a talking point other than trying to get the cars up and going. 8 miles per hour of wind might be a bit of a concern depending on if it gusts and also which direction that is running at the time. So down through Bishop and up towards Jean de Vienne. This is the last part of the track along one of the fastest straights coming up, the Ullman Straight, the longest stretch here on the circuit, where I expect a lot of that slipstream you were just talking about to really take place.
I do too, Joe, and you were mentioning the wind there. It's going to have a very interesting effect, specifically down the main straight. That 8 miles an hour is blowing east, and that means when you're heading up the main straight, you're going to be going into a headwind. That's going to slow you down, and it is going to make a bigger advantage of the draft effect. So don't be surprised if we see less passing going down the backstretch, the Ullman Straight, where there is a tailwind, as compared to seeing more passing on the front stretch where there is that headwind.
Important one to note. Wonder if other drivers have checked that out, made note of it themselves as the Porsche pace car leads them around. Utredes will have control of the field off of Sunset Bend. He waits patiently. They're all lined up nice and pretty here, coming off the final turn of this 3.7 mile course. The green flag is out, and Utredes is off. The number 10 with a good jump, and it looks like Morales might immediately be under attack because Lewis Goodway has got a nose to his inside as they come up to turn 1. He sends it in deep down on the shallow side, and it looks like he's going to have it. Move Goodway to P2, Morales back to 3rd. Good run as well from Davies off the corner, side by side behind him between Menino and Gallo.
Gallo getting a little bit hung out to dry there, but able to collect it back under him. That was a great start from Javi Contreras, really backing the field up, letting himself go at his own command. So really, really good kudos to him. Lewis Goodway moving up over Morales. That's going to be mega for the points for Goodway if he wants to try to stay alive. Now he's just got to tuck up behind Javi, keep it nice and easy together here through this middle sector.
Almost all single file down into the hairpin. Not many trying moves, let alone being able to get a nose in on anyone. So shockingly calm this start of the race, especially in these GT3 cars, who I would think of be a little bit more eager to try and make something happen. As they weave their way through Collier, it's still Utredes, Goodway, and Morales, your podium.
They're still keeping it good. And yeah, everybody keeping their elbows nice and tucked in here. Nobody getting real crazy. We are getting note Aldo Secklin was unable to start here today.
Getting a little bit of word from Flanagan here that Hotham was blinking in front of him, so the 13 will be slightly concerned about that one. All right, let's see what the slipstream is worth with this tailwind as they all pile onto the back stretch, and not going to be able to tell for Utredes because he gets himself a good 7/10 ahead of Goodway.
Yeah, he does, and just one of the great shots here. Kudos to Dougie Beard for giving us that camera angle. You can see everybody snaking their way down the Ullman Straight. Now here they go through Sunset under that bridge and back up the front straightaway. So here we go. This is where I think that draft is going to come into play a little bit more. You can see Morales starting to close in a little bit, but these leaders, they're too far spaced out to really take full advantage of the draft.
Yeah, we had a big wreck. Spencer Simkovic in the 012 unfortunately got into Marcheschi. This happened in Sunset Bend. You could see the damage from Spencer. Keaton, unfortunately, yeah, he just spins it, and poor Spencer is caught out with no place to go. Yeah, Keaton actually went over the barriers there. You're going to see it from this angle.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there, a little bit of NASCAR rubbing as they go into Sunset. Keaton just sort of outbreaks himself there, tries to catch it, nails that inside wall, and does his best impression of a gymnast there, jumping up on a trampoline.
Unfortunately, when you go out of the bounds like that, you get an automatic tow to pit lane, so that's why Keaton is already there. Back up to the front, no other dramas other than that, so it is very on or off switch today for the action, as it continues to be single file all the way up and down the field. And considering this is the sprint series of the PRL, I'm quite shocked that we haven't seen much side-by-side racing.
I am too, Joe. Normally you see these guys get their elbows out a lot early on in this race, really start to slice and dice the best that they can. But everybody being very calm and collected here. Morales doing a good job to keep up behind. That is, I believe, Gallo and Davies on your screen. Gallo, the highest placed Ferrari as of now, and Davies, the only McLaren in the field.
Got a bit of a battle brewing in the mid-pack with Pipe Ceballos being chased by Palacio and Genet. This is for 11th position. It'd be hard to pick them out in that group, so we've hopped on board now. Looking back at Palacio. They come down to the end of the Ullman Straight, rather, and into Sunset Bend. Big look to the inside of Palacio. Genet almost gets a nose in.
Certainly thinking about it there. You can make that pass into Sunset. It is one of the good overtaking opportunities, but it's a weird corner, Joe. The multiple lines that you take through there, it's very easy to defend, so a lot harder to get that pass done. I think Genet here not making a move into one, keeping everything in order, just trying to wait for his right time.
Ooh, a little wide in front of them. That was Jorge Flores, who unfortunately nearly went into the grass, and now Pipe's got a good opportunity. He's right up under the gearbox as they pick up speed around Big Bend towards the hairpin.
This is one of the opportunities he can take. He ducks his nose out to the inside. Ceballos does, thinks better of it, lines back into line. Oh, but he gets touched by Palacio.
And they're going to come nose to nose in the hairpin. A second hit between them. They both fall down multiple positions with that. And Palacio and Ceballos are going to have some significant damage on the fronts of their cars.
They are indeed. You can see what happened there. Sabalos just tried to back off a little bit, trying to fake out Janae in front of him. That caught Palacio just off guard a little bit. Wasn't sure exactly where to call his braking zone. A little bit of minor contact into the back of Pipe, and that caused that spin to happen. As there you see, it looks like that Ceballos able to keep going relatively well, but I think Palacio's got more damage.
We had a change for the lead. We might want to get a replay of this, unless they're still fighting right now. Looks like they are. And in fact, well, that's for second place, because Goodway is so far ahead. This is Morales ahead of Utretis. We'll try and get that replay a little bit later. But Javi, with a mistake, has put himself on the back foot, down to the inside. A big jump from Michael Davies. He knows what's on the line here today, and he's going to get into third ahead of his rival.
That was a mega late braking move there from Michael Davies, just absolutely, utterly confident on the brakes and threw it in. He's going to go into one. Here he goes to the inside of Morales.
And that's his teammate, remember. I wonder if Morales is playing the team game. Oh, but he's going to let both of them through, unfortunately. Utretis sneaking to the inside, and here comes the other red car of Gallo in the 23. So, unfortunately, trying to play the team game has cost Diego dearly.
Joe, remember a lap ago when we said this race was nice and calm? Well, it is anything but right now. Is Morales starting to look back to fight back on Julio Gallo? He's going to try to go around the outside of the hairpin.
Defends to the inside as they break down into turn 7. He's going to be able to successfully fend him off. And here comes Utretis on Davies. Great exit off of that sharp right-hander. And this is how it happened last time. What we didn't see is they almost rubbed doors, except it was Utretis on the inside before. Oh, he can't quite get the apex that he wants, and Davies will retain. Oh my goodness, big chop off from Gallo in front of Morales. I thought the two were going to come together.
I most certainly did, but oh, there's the look to the inside. How did they not come together on that one?
He goes a little bit off track, and here comes Menino. He's been watching this all from the popcorn position. Can he try and take it through Bishop? No, he has to give it up. They must have been listening to the broadcast and thought that they took offense to us calling it a boring race here, because it has suddenly come alive. A spin behind them. That is J.R. Williams, unfortunately, in the 213, finding a little bit of the old runway.
This is a bizarre incident, Joe. It looks like he locks up here, but locks up going to the left. So there you see it. Okay, that's what it is. He just tried to get the car straightened out, and I think it was starting to slide. And as he turned in for the next corner, instead of countering the steer, it just became overcorrection.
Also had a little bit of contact on his way back in. I think it was Barry Cochran who clipped into his car and gave him yet more damage. Back to the fight between Morales and Gallo. This is for fourth position. Watching them is Menino. The inside goes to the 21 of Morales as he tries to hug that curb, and hitting the other curb is Gallo. He once again chops off the nose of the number 21, and that Audi has to back out of it. He'll get another try, though. They once again hit the hairpin.
I think there may be a little bit of contact there, but here comes, a little bit of a shove there from Diego Morales, and Menino's going to stick his nose up the inside of the 21, tries to hold it, but advantage is going to go back to Morales.
Things are suddenly full of action here, and Diego's got a fantastic bit of steam coming up to Cunningham, but he's on the outside. Hugo is going to try and hold him off. Oh, he clips the curb. The two of them come together, and Hugo winds up facing the wrong way as Morales sees three cars just fly by him.
That almost seemed a little bit of inevitable of a contact, just how much they were getting together. We jump back here on replay. There you can see a little bit of a slide there from Morales. Comes into the bend. Yeah, Gallo just took too much of that curb, sent him out into Morales and spun Gallo around.
What a strange turn of events that the single file racing suddenly turned into just frantic battling for position, and it's not over here for second place. Utretis is still hunting down Michael Davies. The McLaren goes to the inside, hoping to keep the Audi behind him, but it's a game of chicken down in a sunset bend. Davies gains the advantage at first. Could there be an over-under for Javi? Not quite.
Javi is able to stick right up behind him. That's a little bit of the car differences that you're seeing there, Joe. That McLaren looks so much more confident on the brakes. Javi's got a little bit more acceleration off the slow corners, but now he goes to the inside of turn 1. Is he going to overshoot it? Javi, he does overshoot it ever so slightly. Davies behind, that's contact.
I think Utretis was trying to cover him off, and it was a bit of a late move. Hard to give a judgment call on that one, though. A little bobble into the corner from the McLaren as Davies locks it up slightly.
I think Davies didn't exactly like that call. He was flashing his lights right after the contact.
So that's why his radio came up. He was searching for that flashing lights button there. As he comes down into the hairpin, he gets close to the back of him. Can he fight back? And the more they do this, the more the Goodway is going to be able to stretch away. But honestly, it doesn't matter how many seconds he is ahead. It'll still be the same points that he scores over the pair of them, and it won't be enough to take the championship lead away.
No, it won't, but for Lewis Goodway, the bigger that gap gets, the more relaxed he can be. Just calm it down a little bit, and with such a long track like this, lap traffic not going to be as big of an issue here. But here they go out of Tower, working their way through Bishop. Now, at the higher speeds, it looks like that both of these guys are pretty well evenly matched. But like I said, I think Javi's got a little bit more run out of the slower corners. You see just how much better Michael Davies is on the brakes. He's going to try to the inside of Le Mans. Not going to get the move done, but he's still going to get a good run.
He's going to get the slipstream on top of it. He shook Javi off the main racing line through Le Mans. Yeah, it's looking very tough with that tailwind to try and catch up enough. Javi defends to the inside of Sunset. It's a reverse of what we saw the lap before. Davies going around the outside, tries to cut underneath him, and he's going to get a fantastic run this time, though. No having to cut across the track as Utretis already has the inside coming up to the first corner. He's going to pinch him down. He's holding him to the inside, comes way to the outside as Davies tries to give him a worse line into the corner, but it doesn't pay dividends.
It doesn't, but he's still able to tick right up behind him. Thinks about going up to the inside there through turns 4 and 5. Nothing doing there, so here he goes. Now, this is the left-hander of 5. Going to try to keep behind him. Can he get a better run off of there? Doesn't look like it.
Now, the one thing that Goodway can hope for in this, that as hard as these two are racing, if they come together and they fall well down the order, that could actually mean the 74 will take the points lead away. We'll check back in on that in a little bit. Look at this fight. This is Menino with a whole lot of pressure from Jean-Marc Tremblay and James David.
Yeah, he's holding off well, and this is sort of the remnants of that battle we were watching earlier with Hugo Gallo into the mix. Gallo has come into the pits. Very, very early stop. I think that may be a little bit more damage related, probably outside the pit window at this point. But David keeping nice up behind Menino. That's Tremblay, excuse me, right ahead of them, Tremblay in the BMW.
Yeah, Menino starting to gap ever so slightly. Behind them, let's not forget about Diego Morales, who is still trying to play catch-up, but he's got a lot of damage on the front. So if he finds them in a straight line, I'm not sure that he's going to have much for them. In fact, a little bit on the left side as well from Diego. Coming on to the Ullman straight. Anybody going to have anything? I'm not thinking so, the way they are spread apart for the time being.
Doesn't look like anybody's quite got the speed there. We've seen some more aggressive moves in 1, and frankly, on the second sector is where we've seen some of the most aggressive stuff get done. There you see Travis and Davies flashing by your screen, focusing here on Menino as that pack goes by. Nothing doing quite yet for these guys, but David's still in hot pursuit of Tremblay.
Maybe one little mistake could change that around. Same thing with this one. Davies making sure that he keeps Utretis honest. They're almost halfway in this race. I think Gallo might be able to make it to the end. We had a problem with Jordan Walker. I think, yeah. Oh, this is very similar to what we had with Marcheschi. The 22 found the inside and then the outside.
All right, so there's the lineup of him coming down the Ullman straight. Now, it is very strangely problematic, Joe. You come in here and you're so fixated on going fast, you got to get the car down on the binders and focus on this turn in. So there he goes, starts to lose a little bit of the rear end, too much of a hit, whaps that inside wall, and makes contact with the rear on the outside wall as well.
As we come back live, he's had to come into the pits since then. The battle's getting tighter, back for that 4th spot. And in fact, James David had a few pokes here and there on Jean-Marc Tremblay for P5. In the meantime, you can see that Lambo just stalking the BMW down into Bishop. They all break, or excuse me, into Jean Debienne. It takes a veer back left and plops you into Le Mans and on the Ulman straight. Oh, and behind them in the mirrors, you can see Diego Morales with yet another problem. This one of his own doing as he spun into the tires.
Oh, Diego, just a tough race for the guy. So here you can see him hanging onto the back of that battle with David. Takes a little bit of an over-aggressive line, a lot of curb there. That's going to throw the car off balance and hard hit into the tires. That right side, very damaged.
Interestingly, he stays out, and look at his rear wing. It is in horrible shape. So basically all sides of the car just about have taken damage for the 21. It is not shaped up to be a good day for Diego Morales. Once again, back to that battle for 4th. They have one less car involved, which I'm sure the rest of them are quite happy about. But it's still got to be settled as 2 BMWs are ahead of a Lamborghini coming down towards the hairpin. Jean-Marc Tremblay closing in. But he doesn't try and put a nose to the inside as he wasn't quite close enough.
A little bit wide there coming off of that corner, but he's going to be able to keep everything gathered. You see him poking his nose out a little bit here and there. I think that may be a little bit of a move to just throw Menino off his game ever so slightly. Wide line there for Tremblay. That's really going to let David catch up. But I think David had to check up a little bit. Very wide there for David.
They nearly spun it out there. You get that grass coming through Collier, and usually it's lights out for most drivers, but all of them stay in a line. 4th, 5th, and 6th that we're watching on your screen right now. Is this the calm before the storm? Storm similar to what we saw just a few minutes ago early in this race. Onto the back stretch. Great exit from Menino and a poor exit from Tremblay. Here we go again. David starting to gain ground.
He's going to tuck up behind in the draft. The tailwind's not going to help him a whole heck of a lot, but he's going to want to try to make sure he gets this braking zone right. Drifts out to the inside. They're a little bit trying to psych out Jean-Marc Tremblay. Didn't work. Tremblay stuck to his line, so good job there. Looks like he couldn't quite maximize it. Takes a wider line out of the corner, just trying to get as much momentum as he can. David just praying for a way by, but it doesn't seem to have it.
If this is partly down to the difference in the 2 makes. Again, David running into Lambo, and then the German mark of the BMW for Jean-Marc Tremblay could have different strengths at different points, just frustrating the number 89 here off of turn 5 and down through Big Bend one more time. Yeah, James David just can't seem to get close enough to the back of that number 127.
Looks like the areas that he needs to be better are just not coming into him there. Thought for a second that just my eyes deceived me. I thought he was going to the inside. It just seems like the areas where he's able to catch up are not actually beneficial to him at all, that he just can't get past down those long straights. So I think that BMW, it may be, as you said, Joe, the make of the car, that it's just got a little bit more top speed. It also may be a bit of a setup thing that James David is running a little bit more wing and Tremblay's running a little bit more trimmed out.
Still need to glance in here every once in a while to Tretis and Davies in case they have something going on. It's been holding station right about how you see here, 0.3 of a second between the pair of them. Although that was a good run through Jean Debienne and Le Mans for Davies, and then he gives away a little bit on the exit.
He does, and you see there, it looks like Utreras is able to eke away ever so slightly. Yeah, even with that draft, Utreras matching speed down the straightaway. I think he's got a little bit more of a trimmed out car there. You see just how tough it is handling those bumps. Okay, here they come onto the main straight. Ooh, that's going to hurt Michael Davies. I think he caught a little bit of grass there on the outside.
He's still not giving it up. In fact, he's got it down to 0.2 of a second by the time they hit turn 1. So he's still gaining little bits here and there. They're now 4.7 seconds behind Lewis Goodway. And I think we have one of our first scheduled stops because I just saw Flanagan duck into pit lane.
Yep, and this comes right at the halfway point, so that is indeed a scheduled stop for David Flanagan. And Joe, you always like to talk about it with these guys. I've got to think if you are James David, Michael Davies, one of these guys that stuck up behind it, maybe time to try to go on an earlier pit stop, see if that can get you by the guy in front of you.
Absolutely. I mean, might as well give it a go and see what sticks. Watch Flanagan now coming back out. Nice, clean, calm stop from him at about 11 seconds. Ooh, we had a pass between Ceballos and Palacio. That was for 12th position. Let's take a look and see how this happened, because this was on the way into the hairpin, but not at the hairpin. Almost looked like he kicked up some dust a little bit, so I wonder if Pipe had a small off, and that may have cost him. Whatever the case, it now puts him down to 13th.
Yeah, Pipe not having the best of runs there on that, and even just going off a little bit, that can cause the tires to spin a little bit. You lose grip, that can cost you 1 or 2 miles an hour, and that's all it takes for a car to get by when you're traveling at these speeds.
Right on board, looking up ahead. Ceballos chasing. It's amazing. It's not that big of a gap. It's 0.7 of a second. And yet look at how far ahead that car feels.
Very much so. It's one of the most deceptive things when you're sitting in the driver's seat. You see that relative pop up, and it's 0.7 of a second up ahead, and you see the car disappearing into the distance, and you go, no, that's wrong. That's not right. He's not 0.7. The 0.7 is closer, but that's what it looks like when you're going down the backstretch to Sebring.
Now past the halfway point. Haven't seen anybody duck in quite yet. And I'm watching that pit entry just to see if anybody else decides on an alternate strategy, and no such luck. Seems like most of the drivers are going to try and go long today. Honestly, going long and fast right now. Let's put the cameras on the 74 of Lewis Goodway for a little bit. Still retaining about a 4.2 second gap, so he's lost slightly to Utreras behind him. But there you see the Mercedes has got this one by the neck currently. The 74 moved his way up to the front and has just been calmly and coolly leading the way for the rest of the pack.
He's just out for a regular Sunday drive there, moving that Mercedes around. It looks very calm, cool, and collected around the track. No aggressive movements there from Lewis Goodway. Doing a really, really good job. And the other thing to keep in mind is that Spencer Semkowicz is up ahead of him 30 seconds up the road. That is the first bit of lap traffic that he will encounter, and Spencer has pitted. So that means that when all of this cycles out, he's going to have a long time before he starts seeing other lap cars.
Indeed. I see Gary Schilling, I think, in for a scheduled stop. And maybe not, actually. He's gone a little long here. So Schilling must have had something happen. We'll check in on that a little bit later. Around Sunset Bend, down to 15 minutes to go, and Goodway's going to continue on for another lap. His stats this season are impressive. He's only had 1 win, but 7 out of the 8 races he's finished within the top 5. That's why he is only 6 points back from our leaders. David Menino still got a challenge from behind the Jean-Marc Tremblay, and they've dropped David. It's a full second back to that Lambo.
Yeah, they really have. That Lambo just not able to fully get around, and after a while, when you are running that hot behind somebody, it just starts to get into your head. But Joe, Brian Hotham, our next driver down pit lane.
All right, so another of our mid-packers has worked his way down. Looks like the Ferrari is going to get his scheduled service. as he waits for the fuel to fill up. We don't expect tires for anybody. Fans of Gary Schilling, he's been in for over a minute at this point, and it definitely appears that some sort of ill fate has befallen him. Back out and running. Calm one for Hotham. 12 seconds, a little bit longer than Gallo, who just went by him, and Flanagan, who is also through.
Interesting. That may be a little bit of safety move there for Brian Hotham. He may have just wanted to put a little bit more fuel on the tank, not have to worry about any fuel conservation. He may have also picked up just a wee bit of damage that he needed to get repaired.
Back out on the track and going. And we're going to watch and see if Goodway comes in. Man, he's taken a lot of curb. That car has actually looked pretty erratic, and it's down to 3.9 seconds. He's continuing to lose to Utretis.
He is, and that's not the lines that I've seen him take. So I wonder if Lewis is starting to feel a little bit of pressure from Utreris and the Audi behind him. Comes around sunset now, not going to pit on this lap.
Or maybe it is setup. Remember, it's open setup out here, and wonder if the tires aren't as good later on in the run. That time by, that lap for him, a 2.7. Compare that to Javi, a 2.2, half a second faster. And we do have some of our front runners pitting now. Looks like Jean-Marc Tremblay and Arnaud Genet.
Yeah, both of them are going to come down the pits here. Everybody else blasting by them. Joe, the other thing to consider with that setup is it has gotten about 5 degrees hotter on track. It's now 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Remember, we started this race at about 85, so that may be what is contributing to Goodway's loss of pace as well.
Yeah, it is a morning race, so the sun continues to get higher, and the temperatures are going to climb. So who's been preparing for that just in case, as we once again look at Javi, as he's got Michael Davies still roughly 0.4 of a second behind, just making sure that if there's any mistake out of that number 10, he can pick it up and run away with it.
And Javi has been able to get that gap up to Lewis Goodway down to about 3.4 seconds. So Javi continuing to reel him in. Michael Davies doesn't look like he's pushing all that hard. So we may be in for something interesting here if that's when he's going to choose to take advantage, Michael Davies, when they catch up to the leader.
It could be as they come around Le Mans one more time. Ooh, and two very different lines between those cars into the corner. That gained a lot for Michael Davies, getting it down to 0.2 of a second. I don't think Utretis is going to have to give it away quite yet, though. In fact, yeah, he manages a much better run, it seems, as he peeled away from him on the stretch, and Goodway's in. Goodway heads to pit lane.
And it looks like Javi and Davies are both going to follow him down. So the top three all in the pits.
This might be the end of the pit window as we are just about 3/4 of the way through this thing. Yep, Menino is in. David. Looks like Flores is going to follow. Yeah, unless somebody's saving a lot of fuel, I think we're going to see all the rest of our cars down on the lane.
And about an 11-second stop is what we've seen for average. So waiting for these guys holding in the booth. Goodway out and under speed under 10.3 seconds. A little bit of a longer stop for Michael Davies at 10.6 and Javi Utreris in at 10.2.
All relatively similar, though. So it's going to be small gains and losses for them. Other drivers, ooh, side by side for David and Menino as they come out, and Menino is going to come out ahead.
Yes, he is, but crucially, that is his teammate Jean-Marc Tremblay going by. So Tremblay going for the undercut and getting it done.
Wow, the 127 is gifted 4th place with that savvy move. Now he's got to bring it home from there with 10 more minutes of racing, though. Rest of the drivers now coming out of the pits, and everybody is done with their stops. We still have 22 cars on the track, but only 20 of them are on the lead lap.
That is correct. The last of your drivers on the lead lap, Spencer Semkowicz, currently running in that 20th position. He is 47 seconds up the road from Lewis Goodway. So barring any mistake from Spencer, I think we will see a very high number of drivers finish on the lead lap here.
my goodness, poor Spencer. This is a Dory Award if I've ever seen one. The guy has got a less than stellar looking car and not looking likely to pass anybody at this point, but he's plugging away. Ooh, there was a look from the McLaren, actually getting his nose almost down to the inside of the number 10 once again, seeing what can happen coming through Le Mans. This is much closer than we've seen him any of the other times. Down the Ullman straight. He's following right in the tire tracks. Defensive move from Javi. Down to the inside, making sure to give him a tough time into Sunset Bend. Shallow entry for the number 10. Is that going to compromise him? Davies can't find an open at the second apex. He'll get another bite as they fly down the pit straight.
Excellent defensive driving there from Javi Utreras, planting the car on the apex, depriving Michael Davies of anything. Here they come. That pit lane widens up a little bit there. Davies again trying on the outside, trying to carry momentum. He's got a nose. He's got the speed. He's going to have the line. He's got it.
Oh, but he gets hit. Oh, no. And he's off in a big way. Hard into the tire barrier for Michael Davies. Utreras making contact. Let's watch this one more time.
Joe, I don't know about this.
It almost looked like, I mean, to give Javi a benefit of the doubt, it did look like Michael started to come across him a little bit. So, but, yeah, he's already been in hot water a couple times as we take a look at the side-by-side battle between Flores and Morales. Diego on his run back through the field is not going to get this spot quite yet.
No, he's not holding him at bay here, trying to get by, but ooh, looks to the inside, thinks about it again, second guesses himself and falls back in the line.
Way wide off of Cunningham for Flores. Almost looked like he got scared off of that for a second. And don't forget about Arnaud Genet back there. He's going to gain time if they keep trying to poke their nose like this.
Yeah, Genet's sitting in the catbird seat back in that popcorn position. He wants this battle to keep going. It's just going to allow him to pull up more and more. There you see the look from the... is he going to try to do that through there? They're side by side. No, he falls back.
Wow, very rare that you can see successful passes into Jean Debienne. Unfortunately for Morales, he's not going to get a successful pass there with that horribly damaged car still plugging away. And Flores in front of him, at least fending him off. Oh, and Javi Utreras just came in the pits. Did he hit him hard enough that he maybe got suspension damage or something here?
I don't know if that's suspension dam. He is coming to a stop here.
Oh, this is incident count penalty, I think. No, it's not a drive-through. Wow. Coming to a halt, and oh, Flores just went off. The 929, there you saw him in the background, unfortunately going wide at turn 1. Let's take another look at it.
All right, so there you see it lining in. You see that pit lane widen out a little bit there. Watching Flores tries to get it in. A little bit too much speed, overcorrects, and that sends him out into the grass, into the outside wall.
Well, unfortunately, he's down in 8th because of that. And the change in the championship situation is Lewis Goodway leading with Michael Davies a good 14 seconds behind him. But I think should still retain the points lead after this. And now Jean-Marc Tremblay is up to 3rd. He came close to catching Davies, but Michael got the car running before Jean-Marc could overtake him. And that brings both Tremblay and Menino up behind and potentially looking at 2nd, depending on how slow Davies is with the damage he got from that incident.
Yeah, he's been able to keep that gap hovering at around 1.5 seconds, so I don't think it is too terminal at this exact moment, but here's going to be a big indicator. See how he does on the main straightaway? He's been able to grow the gap out to 1.6, and it's holding steady there, down about a half a tenth, so it looks like he's able to hold it there for now.
As they come back around, they're going to go by Javi Utredes, who's being put a lap down. I think with just almost 2 minutes of repairs right now that Javi's been taking, I'm guessing he must have gotten a meatball flag. He must have touched the car just wrong.
I think that's an accurate assessment, Joe. It looked like he was able to carry on and not lose a whole lot of time, so it must have just been something that he had to come into the pits for. Meatball flag, probably the best scenario.
Certainly not the best scenario for him. If anything, absolute worst he could have hoped for. We come down through Big Bend, still riding and looking over the dash of David Menino. Jean-Marc Tremblay up in front, his teammate leading and having snatched the spot through the pit strategy. They've only got less than 5 minutes left if he wants to swap those back around.
Well, it's looking like it's going to be a taller and taller order for David Menino. That gap now at about 0.6 of a second. It seems like David's just not really been able to get up and by him here.
No, certainly not, especially not since the pit stops. Just stuck behind. And it looks like we had a change for position. Remember, J.R. Williams, another one that's been trying to come back through the field. Let me check and see if we did have an overtake. Yes, we did. A mistake from Hugo Gallo down into the hairpin is going to gift this one to the 213. Here it is right here.
Okay, so that's Gallo in front in that red Ferrari. Here we go down into the hairpin. You see that car. You don't see any of the brake smoke, but very clearly locking up there, trying to get grip. Couldn't exactly get down to the apex, and that's going to allow him to get right on by.
Yeah, it's not something we point out often, but we don't see a whole lot of brake smoke from these cars because of all the gizmos and gadgets the GT3 cars have.
Indeed, Joe, they actually do have ABS equipped in these cars, so a lockup is very, very hard to do. That said, a lot of these more pro drivers, one of the settings you can adjust in these cars is the amount of ABS put into it. So a lot of them will run very minimal ABS settings because if the ABS starts to engage, it'll actually slow your times down ever so slightly. So it's why we don't see a lot of lockups. It's still possible, but tries to fight back and a big chop.
Oh, but they both lose it a little bit. Williams goes off course. He keeps it from hitting anything, and Gallo's going to get the spot right back.
Well, there you go. Hugo Gallo able to move himself back up into 9th place. J.R. Williams going to be back in 10th, and he's got to do it all over again.
We are going to be white flag next time by for Lewis Goodway. We've got Diego still doing what he can to make something better out of this day. Genet, that's behind him currently, fighting for 6th.
Yeah, Diego, we pointed that out earlier with that very, very badly damaged rear wing in that Audi, but Arnaud Genet just not able to get by him. Just doesn't seem like he's got the speed to close it down full.
Which surprises me because Morales has so much damage on that thing. I'm amazed that he's able to keep the pace he is. Still taking a lot of curb in some dangerous spots, such as Tower right there. We hop on board with Arnaud, watching him head through Bishop, and now braking for Jean Debienne. In front of it all, taking the white flag, Lewis Goodway is doing everything he needs to do right now, as he should get not quite max points as he started from 3rd, so we won't get those bonus points for the pole position, but from what I can recall, it's been quite a clean race for him, so he could get those. And let's see, who's got the fastest lap right now? It is indeed Lewis Goodway.
Yeah, so that's going to hopefully be 2 bonus points for Lewis Goodway, and as close as this championship is, remember, he was only 6 points back of that tie between Utredes and Davies, so that means this season finale is going to just go down to the absolute wire.
It could wind up being whoever finishes in front of the other in the end. We keep an eye on Genet just to see if he can manage to get the attack done here. This battle and the battle between Menino and Tremblay are 2 of our closest. Oh no, Jorge Flores off again. And once again in turn 1. We're not going to be able to see it for the time being, as we got to stick with this hot fight on screen.
Yeah, that turn one corner is very, very hard to get right. You've seen a lot of drivers struggle with today, but we're going to keep here. That's Arnaud closing up, missed his braking zone ever so slightly, missed the apex of the hairpin. That's going to allow Morales to pull away here. The gap now up to about 0.7 of a second. That's going to be very hard for Genet to try to close back in.
All of them suspended it down into Cunningham. As now we jump over to Tremblay and Menino and through Tower. And Menino is probably the closest we've seen him since the pit stop cycle has gone through. How much team orders do they have? Will he try and hold him off? Will he try and attack? But we have to jump away because Lewis Goodway, with a 16-second lead, is going to take the win here today and bring himself closer to a potential championship with victory at Sebring.
Well, Goodway needed to win today, and that's exactly what he did. But, Joe, we've got to jump back to this battle here. As there you see, that is Michael Davies working his way around Sunset right now.
And behind him, a swap for position as Menino gets past Tremblay, but he's going to try and fight back on him. It's going to be a drag race to the line between the pair of them. Who's got it? Barely to Menino by feet between them. And it was only 3/100ths of a second at the line. Looks like Williams going to take 9th as Flanagan's going to beat out Ceballos. And let's take another look at that finish for what was 3rd place. Menino working hard for this one. He passed him on the way into Sunset Bend and then held him off on the exit of the corner. Looks like no team orders to me between them.
Yeah, very much so, and that's a very heads-up move from David. He knew that he just needed to carry more momentum around that corner, and so chose to go on the outside line to try to maximize that speed down the straightaway, because I think he knew it was going to be a drag race.
That's going to close us out, but we've still got more to come. Stick around because we'll have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews coming your way. Welcome back to Sebring International Raceway. Round 9, the penultimate round of the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, went to Lewis Goodway, taking his 2nd win of the season. Michael Davies followed him home in P2, but with a damaged car after he made contact with our other championship rival, Javi Utreras. You won't hear his name until well down the order, though. David Menino was P3, just ahead of his teammate Jean-Marc Tremblay, less than a tenth of a second at the line. And then James David managed 5th after starting 9th. Nice climb for him. Diego Morales went backwards from the front row down to 6th, and Arnaud Genet went from 13th to 7th. Hugo Gallo finished P8 today, with J.R. Williams in 9th and David Flanagan in 10th.
Julio Palacio able to bring the car home in 11th with Pipe Ceballos. You saw him involved in a lot of action in 12th. Brian Hoffman 13th with Christopher Rines in 14th. Jorge Flores came home in 15th, followed by Barry Cochran and Matt Hilton in 16th and 17th. Behind them was Drew DeWeese and Spencer Semkowicz, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. And there you heard him mention it a couple of seconds ago. Javi Utreras 4 laps down in 20th.
from there on down, pretty much all DNFs, unfortunately. Walker, Schilling, Rocheschi, and Secklin. So let's talk to our winner for today, Lewis Goodway, who joins us. Lewis, coming into this, you knew you were 6 points behind. You knew you had to do something on these guys, and I'd say you delivered.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Now, you didn't get the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. It was a good move, right?
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Getting by Javi early in the race and then scampering away with things. Now, the one downside is you didn't quite get max points. As I think you managed to get to the bonus for fastest lap, as well as, well, I need to check if you had clean race, but you didn't get it for pole.
Yeah. Javi's qualifying lap was ridiculous. I couldn't get anywhere near that.
Well, if it helps out, we're pretty sure that he had a slipstream that helped extend it a little farther, but we both kind of agree. We don't think it was 0.6 worth of slipstream for him. Even still, you come into the last round, things are insanely tight now between you and Michael, and I don't know what it's going to look like for Javi just because of how far down he finished. So what do you feel like heading off to Zolder next week? Or Phillip Island, rather.
Bathurst, isn't it?
Oh, I thought I had Phillip Island listed as, but if it's Bathurst, that'll make it all the more difficult.
Changed, but yeah, I'm not very good there, so we'll see. It's about surviving.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Probably the most succinct way of describing that track. Again, congratulations on the victory, and hopefully you'll be able to take it in a week's time.
Thank you. It
was Lewis Goodway, winner here today. And up next, we have DJ talking to Mike Davies.
Well, Mike, that was an amazing run and good battle throughout the entire thing, but I have to start with a little bit of the downside. I've got to talk to you about the accident you had with Javi. What was that like from your perspective?
He just seems to do this kind of stuff quite often. He just gets in deep. It was a bit frustrating when it happened, but I don't really know what to say. It's just frustrating.
I understand that completely, but you were able to fight back through it and get through all that. And I did want to ask you a little bit on the technical side. It looked like you were maybe struggling with a little bit of straight line speed. You had a really, really good car down on the brakes tonight, but were you down on top speed? Was that a setup thing, or was that our eyes deceiving us?
To be honest, I just didn't have any entry into the corner, so I couldn't get off the corner like I would have wanted to. So I think that is the main factor in that case.
Gotcha. Well, now I got to ask you about this championship. That win from Goodway today makes this incredibly tight between the two. We were trying to do the math here in the books. It's going to be just insanely tight between the two. Heading to Bathurst, how do you like the track, and how do you think this thing's going to play out?
I'll probably say the same thing as Lewis. I don't like the place. I drove it the other day in a Jetta, and it's a totally different ball game in a GT3 car because the old mountain's flat out in a Jetta. So, but we'll see what we can do. I think all I need to do is finish, and we should be good. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I have to tell you, surviving around Bathurst, I think, is normally my strategy whenever I race it. But Mike, congratulations again on a second place tonight.
Thank you.
All right, and last up, David Menino has caught up with Joe Peak.
Yes, with a third place finish here today, but it almost looked like you weren't going to get it. Talk to us about the pit strategy, because Jean-Marc managed to jump you, and it looked pretty hard to pass him after that.
Yeah, I think my crew chief overfilled me by about a lap, so I think that was a little bit of it. He was quite a bit ahead of me, so I don't know if that would have really made much of a difference. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't really saving fuel at any point. I was kind of just gunning because I had Jean-Marc and James David behind me, so I couldn't really afford to save any fuel. But I mean, I guess it worked out in the end, so could be pretty happy with P3.
And it looked like the race itself was a bit of an emotional roller coaster for you. You lost a position at the start, and then later on, you find cars wrecking in front of you. I mean, describe some of your experience.
Yeah. So I lost the position at the start because I was kind of stuck behind Davies, who went a bit slow through the corner, which allowed Gallo to kind of get a good run on the outside on me. And then, like, when Diego and Gallo were battling, I wanted to push him in case there was any kind of chance I could get a run, but even before they wrecked each other, they touched a couple times on the straight, so I kind of knew I should be a little bit cautious because there's a good chance it would end the way it ended. But yeah, and then after that, it was just push as hard as I could, and then luckily at the end, I was able to just kind of sneak up on JM and get him on the inside, but he almost got me back on the straight too, so it was definitely a pretty interesting race.
Yeah, how much are you in touch with your teammates during the race? Is there any chatter, or is it just complete silence and it's every man for himself?
There's definitely some chatter, more just like calling out like if some guys wreck or if, there's, a little bit pit strategy as well, especially for those of us that are driving the same cars. But yeah, I mean, JM had mentioned on the chat there that he was going to pit one lap earlier than I was. So, there's a bit of strategy for sure, but it's mostly, for the most part, as far as the racing, it's everyone for themselves.
That sounds fair enough, and it certainly gave us a lot to watch here today. Congratulations on a podium, and best of luck in the finale.
Thank you.
It was David Menado who took a third today, and that's going to close us out. So we want to give a big thank you to our sponsors for this series, of course, starting with Simulation Motorsports Affinity. And if you want to figure out how to get more out of SIMMSA, check out SIMMSA.net. And as well, our sponsor, NinjaTrader. Their website can simply be found at NinjaTrader.com. And finally, for all your sim rig needs, go to ButtKicker, and they are at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. And if you'd like to support us, make sure and check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. Get a link in the description below. Well, their next race, it sounds like at Bathurst. Sadly, we won't be able to cover that, but we will be back next season. And we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen. So check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Including, coming up next, the Porsche Owners Club goes to Zolder. That'll be at 10:45 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.